Welcome everybody to today's discussion of the workbook lessons in A Course in Miracles. Today we will start where we left off last week, which is lesson 61. My name is Johanna and I'm a volunteer with the Foundation for Inner Peace, and I will be facilitating today's session. We usually start our sessions with quieting and centering our minds, followed by a prayer. So I'd like to do that now. And if you will join me, please settle comfortably in your chair and close your eyes if that feels okay with you. Gently breathe in and out at your own comfortable pace. Let any thought that may visit you now pass by. Do not cling to it. Instead, focus on the clear, empty, receptive space that is your mind, that is our mind. This receptive space, this place of inner peace, is where we are connected with our source and with each other. This is where the Holy Spirit speaks to us. Rest in that peaceful place a while. Know that this inner place of peace is always there for you. It is there now when we are focusing on it together. But it is also there for you when you are going about your business in your daily life. This place of peace within calls you to remember it and live your life from it. We have come here in the name of Jesus, in the name of love. Jesus has promised us that when two or more are gathered in his name, he will be there with us. And so we trust that he is here now, sharing in our inner place of peace that we extend to each other. I will now read a prayer that's taken from Workbook Lesson 354, slightly adjusted. We stand together, Christ and all of us gathered here in peace and certainty of purpose. And in him is his creator as he is in us. Our oneness with the Christ establishes us as your son, beyond the reach of time, and wholly free of every law but yours. We have no self except the Christ in us. We have no purpose but his own. And he is like his Father. Thus must we be one with you as well as him. For who is Christ except your Son as you created him? And what are we except the Christ in us? Now gently come back to our shared space here on the internet and smile to your fellow travelers on the journey without distance to a goal that has never changed. Okay, so now there's 13 of us already. So to the ones that I haven't welcomed yet, welcome to the session. Glad to see you. Great that you're here. Today we'll pick up at lesson 61. We started on lesson 61 last week, but we didn't get all to the end of it. So what I wanted to suggest is that we just start again with 61. And I'll ask two people to alternate reading it, each a paragraph, one after the other, the whole thing. And then we'll go back to the top. That will give us a chance to receive the lesson as a whole. And then afterwards, we'll have a chance to go in depth, paragraph by paragraph. So I'll share screen so you can see the lesson. Okay. Yeah. Is it okay if I ask two people to read? And I'll just randomly choose two people to read. Susan, would you start and then alternate with Andrew, please?
Happy to.
Thank you.
Lesson 61, I am the light of the world. Who is the light of the world except God's Son? This, then, is merely a statement of the truth about yourself. It is the opposite of a statement of pride, of arrogance, or of self-deception. It does not describe the self-concept you have made. It does not refer to any of the characteristics with which you have endowed your idols. It refers to you as you were created by God. It simply states the truth. Shall I continue?
If you could alternate with Andrew, that would be lovely.
Absolutely.
To the ego, today's idea is the epitome of self-glorification. But if the ego does not understand humility, mistaking it for self-debasement. Humility consists of accepting your role in salvation and in taking no other. It is not humility to insist you cannot be the light of the world if that is the function God assigned to you. It is only arrogance that would assert this function cannot be for you, and arrogance is always of the ego.
True humility requires that you accept today's idea because it is God's voice which tells you it is true. This is a beginning step in accepting your real function on earth. It is a giant stride toward taking your rightful place in salvation. It is a positive assertion of your right to be saved and an acknowledgement of the power that is given you to save others.
You will want to think about this idea as often as possible today. It is the perfect answer to all illusions, and therefore to all temptation. It brings all the images you have made about yourself to the truth, and helps you depart in peace, unburdened and certain of your purpose.
As many practice periods as possible should be undertaken today, although each one need not exceed a minute or two. They should begin with telling yourself, I am the light of the world. That is my only function. That is why I am here. Think then about these statements for a short while, preferably with your eyes closed, if the situation permits. Let a few related thoughts come to you and repeat the idea to yourself if your mind wanders away from the central thought.
Be sure both to begin and end the day with a practice period. Thus you will awaken with an acknowledgement of the truth about yourself, reinforce it throughout the day, and turn to sleep as you reaffirm your function and your only purpose here. These two practice periods may be longer than the rest if you find them helpful and want to extend them.
Today's idea goes far beyond the ego's petty views of what you are and what your purpose is. As a bringer of salvation, this is obviously necessary. This is the first of a number of giant steps we will take in the next few weeks. Try today to begin to build a firm foundation for these advances. You are the light of the world. God has built his plan for the salvation of his Son on you.
Thank you both for reading. All right, let's go back to the top again. I am the light of the world. We are the light of the world. I'll stop share and ask if anyone would like to share about the first paragraph. Any comments or questions? Andrew, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I really kind of relate to the ego in that it feels arrogant to think that I am the light of the world. I know it's wrong, but that's my initial instinct when I think of it that way.
Yeah, I think that's a very common reaction. That's why he mentions it. But why do you think that's not the case? Andrew, why do you think?
Well, because if it's the opposite of what I am, if I'm thinking that I'm not the light of the world and yet that's the function God assigned to me, then it's arrogant to believe that I'm not the light of the world, because I'd be going against my true function assigned by God.
Right, yeah. And then you would think that you're your own author, right? So that's what the Course calls the authority problem, that we think we can decide for ourselves what we are and what our function is.
Yes.
Yeah, it's part of the thought reversal. Ardith, I see your hands up. Go ahead.
Not much to say at all, except the two sentences that really just shot out at me is the first one, who is the light of the world except God's Son? Excuse me, the three. This then is merely a statement of the truth about yourself. And the last one, it simply states the truth. It doesn't matter what my non-existent but ever-persistent ego says. This is the truth. And every time I think of that, any thought of pride or arrogance just flies out the window for me. I humbly, I have to say that, it simply states the truth, and I accept it gratefully. Thank you.
And Ardith, what do you see as a consequence of accepting it?
I see as a consequence of accepting it of a totally new, an unlearning completely of all my old thoughts about everything, and not simultaneously in that same minute do I think of that, but I feel that, and my heart opens wide to be able to receive whatever is wanted for me to hear, and otherwise I couldn't do anything except exist as that other ego, and I'm very grateful and thankful that that's not the case. Somehow or other, it seems to unlock the door when I say it simply states the truth about me. And if I really, really make a point of accepting it every day, it incrementally adds and makes me feel closer and closer to the reality that I am, that we all are, the one. I don't know how else to express it, but thank you for asking.
No, beautifully put. I was listening with very attentively. The Dutch saying came into my mind, but that's not helpful. Anyway,
a Dutch saying.
Yeah, Jerry, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I could relate to the idea that who, me? Oh boy, are we in trouble if I'm the light of the world? But the idea, as I've learned from the Course, is that I'm reinforcing the tiny mad idea. I've separated from the light of the world, which is God, and ideas do leave their source. So I'm not part of that light extension, the extension of love at all. I couldn't be. I'm an ego. I'm separate. Who, me? No, I'm not within the light. I'm in the darkness. So it's just very arrogant. to insist on the tiny mad idea, which is my mistake. It needs to be corrected so that I'm regaining the perspective that I am the light of the world. Otherwise, I wouldn't be so afraid all the time and so anxious and so uncomfortable in my own skin. And I wouldn't despise you, the other. You know, I would see us all as one, and so on and so on. Light of the world. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jerry, for contrasting the two narratives. Megan, go ahead.
Sorry, that was a thumbs up, not a.
Ah, okay, yeah, all right. No, that's my bad. Anybody else? I'm just so curious for anyone who'd like to comment. Ardith already explained it. As you know, she said it opens the door, but what does it mean to you that to accept I am the light of the world? I am the light of the world. When you let that sink in. Ah, Megan, go ahead. See, I knew you were going to say something.
My hand up. Okay, so I understand and agree and have felt all the feelings that everybody else has stated, which is, wait a second, I'm the light of the world. How could that be? And then the idea that being, it's arrogant to think that I'm not because God says I am. I find that contradiction so unique because when I'm a little kid and when you're growing up, your parents go, who do you think you are? And you go, I guess I'm not anybody because my parents go, who do you think you are? And then you get out in the world and they go, well, who do you think you are? The Queen of England? I'm like, no, but you know, the course keeps telling me, no, you're divine. Stop separating yourself from God. You know, you're, so it's one of those things that I keep having to go back to. And then also, I guess the big thing is the desire for conflict and desire for my own troubles to get in the way. That not that I desire it, but some part of the text said you covet these things so you can have something to bitch about, you know, so you have like a little box of stuff in the corner and that's your bitching corner and that's the ego's, what brings you back down to ego. And when you accept you're the light of the world, then all that stuff you have to release and let go because it's something the course says you covet it, you savor it. And I'm like, wow, you know, so a lot of these thoughts, they really work on each other. You have to really think about, you know, the difference about how you're experiencing things and then also how you're, how can you be the light of the world, and just embracing that is not always easy.
Thank you for sharing, Megan. Yeah, I suppose it comes down to something that Peter likes to say. Who do you think you are? I mean, not in a cynical way, but really, what is your self-concept? That's what it comes down to. Because if you see yourself as the small person in the world, I'm the light of the world, it's indeed crazy. But if you know that your true identity is the Son of God and this one Son of God, and that's my true identity, it's a different matter. Okay, Peter, I knew it. Go ahead.
I think Marguerite had her hand up first.
Oh, sorry. No?
No, okay. So yeah, I mean, that's what I'm thinking the whole time. It's this idea. The course does talk about the self-concept versus self, but this idea of identity, you know, this owning the truth has only one. There's only one logical conclusion. If I am as God created me, if I am a child of God, then none of this makes any sense. And the resistance is giving up. I like the word that Megan was using before, you know, coveting the grievances, coveting the resentment, you know, and who would I be without my anger? Who would I be without my grievances? Who would I be without my self-pity? Who would I be without illness, sickness, financial challenges? That's what we're invited to begin to explore here. If all of that is illusion and the truth is something else, then And here's the thing, like, don't try to change habits, don't try to change behaviors. All of that changes automatically when I change who I think I am, when I change how I see myself. But of course, the ego doesn't want to let go of that, because that also means the end of the ego. So this is the conundrum, if you will, that we find ourselves in when we think that we're here as egos. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. That's well stated. Margriet, go ahead.
Well, for me, the word relationship came up. And then I thought, well, who, what am I, the light of the world? I thought that means that my relationship is only with God and not with any relationship ego form wise. That's what I realized.
That sort of refers back to what Jerry said, right?
Yeah, but it also adds very beautifully with the things that Peter said. I thought, I mean, right away I thought, oh, no wonder he went first.
Okay, thank you. Relationship, yeah. Because that, God is our creator, right? And so we have a relationship with God as our creator. Carol, go ahead.
Yeah, so what came up for me when I think of I am the light of the world, I really feel like it's a call for my awareness to rest in my true essence. That I'm working to keep my awareness in that place. And then I'm living and moving from a place of pure peace and pure love, and that will bring light to this world.
Thank you. That's very well stated. Very, very well explained. Would anybody like to respond? Margriet, your hand is still up. No? Okay, Maggie, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, everyone. And Carol, I resonated with that a lot. That for me right now feels like a good way to sum up my personal practice of just trying to be aware of the small self, thinking it's something other than the light of the world. But like Peter was saying, not trying to fix that, just being aware of it and just looking at it, just going, there it is. That's not me. To me, when Hannah, when you say, what does it mean to just accept this truth, that like Carol said, that for me is just to hold it in awareness and just go, there it is. Okay, that is not me. So thank you.
And so, yeah, thank you, Maggie. And to follow up on that, so do you think that when we fully embrace the statement, I am the light of the world, that what we do in the world changes? Or will it just have a different charge?
In my experience, the section in Song of Prayer, True Prayer, really just rings true. In my experience, who just said it? I think it was maybe just Peter who just said it. I can't remember. But the simply trying to bring to that awareness and just look at it with spirit is the only thing that I am asked to do. But that as I do that, there are sometimes these little echoes of an answer that come through, which might actually mean I behave differently in the level of form. But like true prayer, like that section in the Song of Prayer says, I don't try to ask for that. So I don't try to say, let me behave differently, let me act like I'm the light of the world. I just continue to watch that part of me that thinks it's something else. And as I continue to do that, I notice that there are definitely changes in how I feel. And sometimes there are actual changes in how I'm behaving as well. But I don't feel I am choosing those. I don't feel that I am dictating that.
Thank you. That's very clear. All right. Andrew has his hand up, then Megan, and then Peter. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, very quickly, being the light of the world seems to me to be a call to be an example to others of how to behave, just to be a loving person, like Carol said, to go through your day in loving service. But it seems to be a call to service to me. being the light of the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, go ahead. The next one. I forgot who I mentioned first. Megan.
I specifically had trouble with this recently, like this over the weekend, because part of me works with the course and feels very much like forgive and love and give joy and love. And then I hit a problem that had come up about 6 months ago. And I realized that I needed to address the problem, and my normal way of being was being challenged, because part of me said, just love and forgive through it. And the other part of me said, time to distance yourself, because taking care of yourself is part of the course. You have to take care of yourself, even if that doesn't seem like, I told my sister I felt very bitchy. And she said, it's not bitchy to take care of yourself, even though you've been taught that saying no or doing things that, stop somebody from being able to harm you or upset you seems like pushing away. It's so anyway, this came up in my life recently, and it was very difficult for me to figure out what do I do with it. So I just wanted to mention that, because I thought this was really, really important for me, because you can be the light of the world, and you can also say, but this is where I am today. This is not healthy for me, so I have to back off.
Yeah, boundaries. Insist
Yes.
on healthy boundaries. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Peter.
Yeah, to your question, Johanna, does the charge change or does the behavior change? And I think my answer is both in this sense. I think we have to remember that when we truly see ourselves as the light of the world, we're going to see everybody else the same way. Everybody's going to be the light. And there won't be anybody else, actually, because everywhere I look, I'll be seeing myself. So it changes everything. The Course talks about shared interests, for instance. I will no longer, there will be no sense of separation. So all the things that I do now to maintain separation, whatever that might be, go out the window. There'll be no need for grievances. So all of that goes out the window. It'll only be, I think, to express, to extend, as God does with us, to extend love, to extend the, it's very interesting too, this idea, this is a little off topic, but it's in top of my mind. He says, oneness is the idea that God is. I forget where that is. It's in one of the recent workbook lessons, I think. And then we say God is, and we cease to speak. So the light, seeing the light in everyone, seeing no separation between me and anyone else, brings me to that state of oneness, which is, for me, it's not consciousness, it's not even awareness, which a lot of people talk about. For me, God is a statement of beingness, of just pure beingness. And we can't comprehend that, I think, as seemingly separated selves. But being the light, seeing the light, I remove that sense of separation. I enter oneness, and now we just are. There's nothing to think about. There's nothing to figure out. There's nothing to plan. There's nothing to be angry about. There's nothing to be sad about. In a sense, there's not even anything to be happy about, because that's our natural state. It's our state of beingness, is a state of joy, love, and peace. That's the end game. Between there and there, there's a lot to cross, but I think that's the ultimate result of all of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Ardith, you would like to respond? You're muted, Ardith.
Now am I?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I hit the wrong key.
We can hear you.
Key. I was just struck with these wonderful comments. They really are, and they all have relevance at some point. I was just struck by the fact that we're reading these lessons starting from one. I like the way you did it, by the way, alternating everybody reading all the way through. It told me very clearly that if I just read, and this is an experiment, but I do it this way, and it really works. If I just read what's in each paragraph and concentrate on that and let that sink in. It seems like it's cumulative, so that by the time I get to the end, I have a far greater feeling. It doesn't even have to be understanding. It really isn't anything whatsoever to do with the intellect, even though the Spirit is addressing the mind. It's all in the whole being. And if I, for instance, just take this as a premise, I am the light of the world, and just believe what this paragraph is telling me. It's a statement of truth. It states the truth. I may not realize it at any given moment, but if I accept, yes, this is the truth, and just take it as it comes and just put my whole being into it, I have absolute confidence that what Peter describes is going to happen, and sooner rather than later. At least that's my belief and my hope. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing and for sharing your conviction. Lovely. I saw Liz had her hand up and Jerry. Go ahead, Liz. Yeah.
Okay, I had to unmute myself. Boy, I wish I were in the same place as most of you who have spoken. I've taken this lesson seriously since I started course almost 40 years ago. And so going back to your question, Johanna, yes, I changed my behavior quite a bit. I tried to eliminate judgment when I couldn't directly forgive something or someone. I asked for the Holy Spirit's help. I have done my best to rise above the battleground, and there have been many. And I'm a results-oriented person, at least if you look, you use that term in this world's thing. And frankly, I haven't seen it taking any effect on the people whom I have tried to share the message, or I have mentally tried to extend the message. I'm a long way from where Peter is, that's for sure. And I go to the, if you go to the manual, a teacher of God is anyone who sees another person's interest as their own. And that is the way I have tried to act and behave and speak and think for 39 and a half years. And I'm not seeing any results. In fact, the ego seems to be wanting to become more and more vicious every day.
Thank you for sharing that, Liz. I see two hands up. Is that in response to Liz?
If anybody's got any advice, that would be great.
Yeah. I think Maggie has her hand up in response to Liz. And Jerry, would you like to respond? Go ahead.
Okay. Well, yeah. Thank you. Here's something that I had just sort of remembered. There is no I. So this must be an interim learning process. I am not the light of the world because I don't exist. I'm a figure in a dream. Now, what then is the dreamer if I'm not the figure in the dream? Well, I think the dreamer is the mind of Christ and God. So I can't take it personally. There's this figure in the dream that's, uncomfortable with the idea that that's my function as the light of the world. But the figure in the dream doesn't really exist. I'm the dreamer, and I have never left heaven. I'm awake, but not I, but the Christ. So there seems to be kind of a false problem here, as really is so common with the ego. There's no problem. There's no me. There's only the light of the world in the world that God is extending through the Christ. And I can just let myself off the hook because that figure in the dream really is, what am I saying here, guys? It's just silly. Let it go. You know, that poor figure in the dream is no more real uh, than the ego itself. Does that make sense? Does that address the issue? I mean, what are we talking about? There's no I. Ken used to say there's no I in heaven.
Would you like to respond, Liz?
Uh,
Sometimes your
Well,
image.
without going in, it was not helpful. All right. Thank you, Jerry, but it was not helpful because even though Course is non-dualistic, all of the lessons, all of the text, and arguably the manual are about how we are trying to be a part of salvation of the separated selves. I agree that from a non-dualistic point of view and the ultimate, there is no I. But while we're walking around in this illusion, we are supposed to be doing the forgiving. We are supposed to be spreading the light. We are supposed to be accepting our brothers and sisters, if you will, as part of the sonship. And what I'm saying is that if I have no role in salvation, then I've been reading the Course in Miracles completely wrong my entire life. If I really truly am not supposed to do anything, and I'm not supposed to say anything, and I'm not supposed to behave in any way, then what difference does it make? You know, why should I be doing any kind of work whatsoever, or existing whatsoever? You know, just go ahead and it's laissez-faire, you know. So I am perfect. I can accept the non-dualistic philosophy, but while I'm still breathing and I'm still having to find a house to live in and a job that gives me income, there are things that we need to address, and those are addressed in the Course as well. So
Sometimes
I'm
your
just
image,
saying that.
yeah, okay. Sometimes your image freezes a bit, and we a few words are missing. But
Well,
yeah, I think, Liz, that what you're basically saying is there's level 2 and there's level 1, and how do you get from level 2 to level 1? And we can't have salvation by proclamation. We have to do the work. That's what you're saying, right?
correct.
Yeah. Okay, Jerry, would you like to respond?
You know, I really feel a kinship, of course, with the remarks and the person who's making the remarks, for sure. Listen, I think I'm here. I think I'm real, but Yeshua, Jesus, never is talking to me. He's talking to the mind that we all are as one mind in God. So, you know, maybe it's beyond explanation. Words are just symbols, you know, twice removed from reality. But he's not talking to you. He's not talking to me. This book was not written for us. The reader of the book, I don't know, is just kind of more of the imagery in the dream, but he's talking to us as minds, right minds, Christ minds. And that doesn't have any individuality or ego to it. So let it go. Just be willing. You may not believe it, you know, like the introduction to the workbook. You just do it. You know, I mean, just go along with it. And 39 years, I salute you. And I think you're, in a way, far beyond what you think you are. My goodness, you're the light. You're not
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Come on.
agree, Jerry, because the one saying that she's nothing to show for it, that's the ego saying that. And the ego doesn't know. The light knows. All right. Would you like to respond again, Liz? Or would you like to hear what the others have to say?
I thank you, and I'll be quiet now.
All right. So Maggie, would you like to, Maggie, then Megan, and then I'll call some other names. Go ahead, Maggie.
Yeah, Liz, hi. I want to try to get back to your original question as it was framed. So please feel free to correct me if I'm not remembering it. But I think you asked, well, basically you said, I don't think I'm experiencing any results from doing the forgiveness, right? I've been doing this for so many years, right? And nothing seems to be happening. So I heard you, and I can just relate to you so strongly. I'm sure everyone here can relate as well. And I was thinking about how, in my own experience, I know that when this happens for me, because there are times, like, you're not alone, Liz. Some of us have been doing this quite a long time. It's just about 20 years for me. It is not something where every time I join with spirit, I feel some immediate result. It is not something where I can always see direct change coming right from my forgiveness. I can't tell. It's not always like that. I do have these moments where it seems like something does happen right away. And then that, gets tricky for my ego, because in the moments where it doesn't, it goes, well, why not here? Why not now? When I try to pose these things to my inner teacher, that's a big practice for me. It's really great to show up and chat with each other too. But I find that the calm certainty only comes from when I connect inward and get some answers from my own inner teacher that make sense for me. So I invite you to take that in. I can share with you what I've gotten for myself, and it may or may not speak to you, but you can hear and see if it does. When I say, why isn't it working? I get a response along the lines of, you don't know what anything is for. You can't assess it. And so that is a thing that, believe me, I don't like it. I'm not saying I take it and I'm just like, okay, great. Like, there's times where I feel pissed. I've shared that in this group. There's times where I feel pissed, like literally, and I've been mad at Jesus. But that answer has served me if I keep coming back to it. And there are relationships and things that I have seen change over time. But even those, I don't feel able to say, well, that's a direct result of this moment when I forgive this thing that they did. It just doesn't feel that direct. And I've been also kind of intuiting from spirit sometimes that nothing can consistently work here, or else I would not get sick of it and wish to leave. So anything that works only works sometimes. Nothing works all the time is kind of just like a rule of this little dream world, it seems. So that, I guess, I just want to share that with you, just to let you know that it is hard to hear the level 1 statements and be in level 2 and know that it's not true, that you aren't really in level 2, but yet here we are seeming to experience it and talking to each other. I really feel like there was something else I wanted to share with you, but I think I've lost it at this point. So maybe I will just leave it there. But I hope that is helpful, just to consider that we can't really even accurately assess if it's working, and take it inwards and see if you can get any answers from your own inner teacher that makes sense of it for you in a way that feels more satisfactory. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you, Maggie. Would you like to respond real quick, Liz? Or would you like to listen a bit longer? It's up to you.
Thank you, Maggie. I'm just going to shut up and listen.
All right. Okay. Megan, then Peter. Go ahead.
Okay. Wow. Thank you, Maggie. Thank you, Liz, for pointing out something that we've all been feeling. I also have been studying the course, well, not dedicatedly studying it, but I've been studying it for about 40 years since it came out. But I've also allowed it to sit on my table or in my bookshelf, because I realized being results oriented sort of hampered me, because then my ego was looking for a result to the work I was putting in. And I realized that's not how it works. Just an aside, I asked an AI to tell me what the Course in Miracles, like, to condense it. And I said, does it tell us that we're not bodies? And it says, it doesn't teach that we're not humans. It says, instead, it emphasizes that our true identity is not limited to our physical body or personal identity, but is rather a divine, eternal, and unified consciousness or spirit. The Course teaches that our reality is not defined by our physical form or individual identity, but rather our inner state of being, which can be transformed through forgiveness and the recognition of our essential oneness with all things. So I thought it was nice to see, like, an AI to figure out what the Course meant, but it helped me a bit to realize that I'm really just trying to change my inner workings, not the outer stuff. Like, I may teach, but I don't go out and say, here, listen to the Course in Miracles. I actually pick little pieces from the Course that means something to me and might mean something to somebody else, or during a situation, rather than actually trying to introduce people to the Course and try to get them to learn it so that we can be one together. I realize that's just too much to ask of a lot of people. So I try to share little bits here and there. And then also, I believe that the Course tells you that as a teacher, you just by being yourself and by working on your own internal dialogue and how you are in the world, you become a teacher, because by virtue of you teach what you are and you are what you teach. So you may never know that you are having an impact on people around you. When you start looking for an impact, you stop becoming the teacher, because you've stopped acting in a way that is teach worthy, I believe. I don't know if that's a word, but when you're starting to look for a reaction or a response, you stop being in yourself as spirit, if that makes sense. I hope that helps, Liz.
Thank you, Megan, for sharing. Peter, and then Ardith.
I think Andrew has been waiting. I think he was ahead of
all
you.
right. Andrew.
Thank you. Very briefly, I just agree totally with what Maggie said and what Megan said. When you want to give someone a blessing of love because they're having a problem, you do that silently, and your job is done. It's not what you're not supposed to judge the result. It's like giving a gift. You don't give a gift and then expect the person to use that gift just in the way that you want them to use it. It's theirs to do what they want with. And I hope that's helpful. I'm just sort of condensing what others have said. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Very clear. Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, so I just want to say, Liz, you rock. I'm so happy that you're here sharing this with us today.
Yeah.
I think you were concerned about your message reaching people, and you've reached at least 13 people here today. So I think whatever you're doing, keep it up. The thing I would say too is, I think I heard you say that your ego has become vicious. That's a great sign, because now the ego knows its days are numbered. The Course says the ego varies from suspiciousness at best to viciousness at worst. So, and it also says the ego is most likely to attack when it perceives you as being loving. So if you notice the ego is attacking, it means you are being loving. It means you are threatening its very existence. So I want to encourage you, and I will just say, for me, I'm a work in progress. I talk a great game, and I struggle with this every day, like everybody else, applying the principles. The last thing I'll say is this idea there is no I in heaven. I think it's both and. I think that is true in the sense that there are no individual identities or egos in heaven. But I also recall, I think it was Ken Wapnick who always used to say, Jesus meets us where we think we are. And so as long as we think we're bodies, as long as we think we're individuals, that's the purpose of the course, is to meet us there and then to guide us back to truth. Truth is true and nothing else is true. But until we get guided back to it, it makes no sense to us. You know, I mean, you can look at the course, 1,200 pages, and I remember the first time I read it, what is this guy talking about? You know, it seemed crazy. So he meets us where we think we are, and this is the journey back home. And it's not really a journey because we wake up and realize we never left heaven. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, for inspiring us all. Ardith, go ahead.
Oh, I practically lost it because I've been hearing so many wonderful things, try to assimilate them all. The thing that came to, it seems to always come back to me, is the clarification of terms, where it tells us that this is not a course in philosophical speculation or concerned with precise terminology, and it's concerned only with atonement or the correction of perception. That's the thing. It's our perception. It's how we see everything through the wrong eyes. When we're seeing through Christ's eyes, it's so different. And it doesn't happen consistently in this procession. It's a progress. I guess some it happens to quicker than others because of, depending on your understanding about life continuance, for instance, a reincarnational idea. But the truth is that I go to the miracles, which says the miracle, anything that comes from love is a miracle. So if, for instance, Liz is given all those wonderful years of trying and to apply all that she's taken in, it's never lost. If it's put out with the intention of love, then it's never lost. That's what the real meaning of the miracle is. And it does tell us, I think I pulled one up just to see if I was remembering it correctly, number 45, which says, a miracle, remembering that it is love expressed, may touch many people you haven't even met and produce undreamed of changes in situations of which you're not even aware. So I think when we get to those moments when we think that, oh my gosh, all this work that I put in, it's gone for naught, or am I on the right path? If we just remember and always zero back to love and put it that way, and remember that if there's so many that we don't even know of, that understand and reach and feel what we're doing, then the one right in front of us may not look as though they've received anything, but we can rest assured that if our intention has been that way, they have. And somewhere, somehow, we will see it and we will feel it. And I think taking Maggie's instruction of going into that inner teacher over and over and over again is absolutely the key. Thank you.
Thank you, Ardith, for the encouragement. Was that the Miracle Principle 45 in Chapter 1?
Yes.
All
yes.
right, thank you for the record. Thank you. Yeah, very apt reference. Megan.
I forgot I put my hand up. I think I was just going to add something that Ardith said made me sit up and listen again, which is sometimes I'll curse at the course. Doesn't mean I'm not thinking about it, but I go, gosh, blah, blah, bleep, bleep. Course says I can do this, and now I have to do this. And so I think sometimes you just got to let yourself be angry. If that's what comes up, so be it. Like, just go, what was it? Somebody put on the support group, what do I feel really angry these days. What do I do with it? And somebody said, be as angry as you want. Who cares? Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So I think one of the things I was thinking for Liz was that sometimes I will tell somebody the truth and they'll be really pissed off at me saying it. They will yell and scream, and then they'll go away, and about 6 months later, they'll come back and thank me for telling them the truth. And so I think sometimes, even when you're telling people things they need to know, they can't necessarily hear them at time and place and space that you want to tell them. But that doesn't mean that you haven't made a difference. And that doesn't mean that you will ever get like a 6 month later call or anything like that. So I'm with Peter in saying, please keep going. Please keep trying. I think it's definitely worthwhile, and it is making you feel better and do better.
Thank you, Megan. Well, that's a wonderful note to end this meeting on. because we're almost at the top of the hour. I would like to thank you all for your participation, for your presence, for holding space. And I will read a prayer that was taken from, hold on, I need to find it first. Yeah, it was taken from lesson 353 and it's slightly adjusted. Our eyes, our tongue, our hands, our feet today have but one purpose: to be given Christ, to use to bless the world with miracles. Father, we give all that is ours today to Christ, to use in any way that best will serve the purpose that we share with him. Nothing is ours or mine alone, for we have joined in purpose with him. Thus has learning come almost to its appointed end. A while we work with him to serve his purpose, and then we lose ourselves in our identity and recognize that Christ is but ourself. Amen.